So I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about about a SWOT analysis. What exactly is a SWOT analysis? Well, I'll tell you what it's not. It's not what you see on TV, which would be police breaking down a door with AR-15s and what have you. That's SWAT team. So just making a little joke there. But our SWOT analysis is pretty much what happens when businesses take a look at themselves and try and see where they're going and what they want to do. So what does it actually mean? SWOT, SWOT. S is for strengths, the W is for weaknesses, O is for opportunities, and T is for threats. And what is the purpose of a SWOT analysis? It gives one a fuller awareness of the situation that helps with strategic planning and decision making for your organization, whether it be a nonprofit, a business, a club, any type of thing. So a SWOT analysis can be used for many different things. It also helps you guide your organization's strengths, weaknesses, as well as broader opportunities and upcoming threats. Developing a fuller awareness of the situation helps you both with strategic planning and decision making. The SWOT method was originally developed for businesses and industry, but it's equally useful in the work of community health and development, education, and even for personal goals. Like, what are your personal goals? What do you want to do in life? And you can do a SWOT analysis on yourself. Now, let's start with strengths. What what would be how do we define strengths in a SWOT analysis? Generally, it would refer to internal initiatives that are performing well. What does my company do well? What do we do best? What are we known for? Examining these areas helps us to understand what's already working. Then you can use those techniques that you know that work, your strengths, in other areas that might need additional support, like improving your team's efficiency. When you're looking at the strengths of an organization, you have to ask the following questions, and you can look at it from two different sides. What do we do well? What do we do best? What are we known for? What's unique about our organization? What is our unique value proposition? And we'll be talking a little bit more about that a little later. What does our target audience like about our organization from the outside? And what categories of features do we beat out our company? What do we do better than anybody else? So to give you a little example, Google is known for their customer service. So Google customer service, the world-class customer service has an NPS score of 98 for Google as compared to their competitor Apple, which has an NPS score of 75. What is NPS? NPS is the Net Promoter Score, and that's a market research metric that measures customer satisfaction with a company, product, or service. So as you can see, Google has about a 25% higher rating than Apple. And it could be for a number of reasons, but people, when they talk to Google, they are just much more satisfied uh, with their interaction and with how they work with them. Now, moving on from strengths, we go to the W, which is weaknesses. Now, when we talk about weaknesses, we refer to internal initiatives that are underperforming. It's a good idea to analyze the strengths before your weaknesses in order to create a baseline for success and failure. Identifying internal weaknesses provides a starting point for improving those projects. How do we identify our company's weaknesses? Generally, we will ask ourselves, what initiatives do we have that are underperforming? Why are they underperforming? What can be improved? What resources can improve our performance? How do we rank against our competitors? That's very, very, very important. What what what's bad about us? What do people not like? And a lot of times, it may be an old company coming into the new world, e-commerce. Some companies don't even offer e-commerce. or if you do offer e-commerce, the website visibility is low because of a lack of marketing budget, leading to a decrease in mobile app transactions. And in these days, everyone has a mobile app. So we look at all of those items to figure out exactly what our weaknesses are. That's a very part. I'll pause here to see if there are any questions at all that I might be able to answer.
We have two questions so far. The first one is SWOT analysis the same thing? Instead of weakness, the C stands for challenges.
It could be, but a challenge is not necessarily a weakness. So I haven't heard that particular acronym. Uh, I just haven't heard of that acronym before. And that was you said a chat analysis?
Uh, C for challenges, yes, instead of W for weakness. So SWOT analysis.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. I'm not familiar with that one.
And the second question is, how is a SWOT analysis different for an existing business versus a startup?
Well, an existing businesses have a history to run on. So you will know what your weaknesses are versus a startup. You will kind of have to figure out what your weaknesses are beforehand. Like, what do you not know how to do? If you're starting a restaurant, uh, what could your weakness be? If you already have a restaurant, you'll know that your food is great, but the service is underperforming. So you can kind of have something more a baseline to work things out on. So it's different because you're 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 working with what could be or what might be versus what actually is. I hope that answers the question.
I think it did. And if there's any follow-up questions, please feel free to respond back.
I'm sorry.
But
Oh,
there's another question on, can you elaborate on marketing budget?
exactly. Marketing is probably one of the most important parts of your business if you're direct to consumers. As you know, Coca-Cola's been around for 100 years, and you always see them marketing. You always see a Coke ad. You always see a Pepsi ad. Why? Because they want to stay in your face. It doesn't take much to forget things. Anything new can be. So you have to kind of develop a marketing budget for whatever your business or whatever your organization does. Um, and generally, a marketing budget can be 5 to 10% of your gross income. Um, and again, it also depends on your business. Are you a startup? Are you an existing business? Do people know about you? That sort of thing. So I'm not exactly sure how you want me to elaborate on the marketing budget, but the marketing budget can can be a weakness and it can be a strength. If you have a lot of money to market with, then it can be a strength. If you don't have a lot and you need to market and you have a lot of competition, then it can be a weakness. Any other questions?
Thank you, Ron. Uh, One additional question. How do you know if a weakness is real or perceived?
I guess the best way that I can answer that question would be from the outside looking in. You may not see a weakness, but other people may see a weakness, or other people may see a weakness that you don't think it's a weakness. However, excuse me, however, uh, the outside thinks it's a weakness, and therefore it's hurting you. I'm trying to think of an example of what that would be. If you were a mechanic, say, and you fix cars, but you don't completely fix them. You do somewhat. You think you completely fix them, but every time something happens, there's a different problem. So you may have a mechanic shop, and there's always a problem. Somebody's always bringing the car back. You may be perceived weakness, or you may not believe that what you did to the car was a problem, but it happens more often than not. So a perceived weakness is something that you don't necessarily agree with, but the outside sees it as a weakness, and it can affect your business as well. So you'd have to look at that as well, because that's why you want to look at it from both sides. You look at it from inside, and then you look at it from how your customers look at you.
Follow-up question separately on weaknesses. Would being understaffed be considered a weakness?
If it affects, I mean, I think so. If it affects the performance of your business, yes. If it doesn't, then maybe no. However, your staff is overworked, and could that could happen. That could make for a constant turnover in staff. So yeah, it could be a weakness. It could be a weakness, or you may have staff that likes to work hard or likes to keep busy. It all depends. If it affects your bottom line, then yes, it's definitely a weakness.
All right, well, let's continue with the presentation and then we can take a few more questions after the next slide or the slide thereafter.
Okay. So now we want to look at our opportunities, the O in SWOT. Now, generally, opportunities is a result from your existing strengths and weaknesses, along with any external initiatives that will put you in a stronger competitive positions. This could be anything from weaknesses that you'd like to improve or areas that weren't identified in the first two phases of your analysis. Since there are, several multiple ways to come up with opportunities, it's helpful to consider these questions before getting started. What what resources can we use to improve our weaknesses? Are there market gaps in our service? What are our business goals for the year? What do our competitors offer? Those are some things that we can look at. Now, in addition to the opportunities, there may be some laws, some new legislation that's coming into place that could be an opportunity that you may be able to take advantage of. Um, we can go through opportunities very many different ways. Generally, you can you can access these opportunities through your marketing campaign, and that is to build your brand. To improve your brand visibility, you can run ad campaigns on different channels. Back in the old days, you had ABC, NBC, and CBS, and it was very expensive to get on TV. Now you have YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram with millions and millions, or actually billions of followers, billions of eyes looking at them. So there are many different ways now that you can improve and actually seek out opportunities. So again, marketing is a very, very serious tool in your analysis. And then from opportunities, we go to the exact opposite. What are the threats? What threats do we have? That's the T. Now, what are the areas that have the potential to cause problems for your organization? It's different for weaknesses because these are external and you can't really control those. It could this can include anything from a global pandemic, which we just had. You couldn't control that. There was nothing you could do about that, to the competitive landscape, to a change in the competitive landscape. It could also be legislative. As you know, here in California, in the food business, any franchise with over 50 locations has to have a starting minimum wage of $20 an hour versus the regular minimum wage, which is $17 an hour. So that's something that's totally out of your control, totally out of your control, and it can cause problems. Now something has to go up, something has to give. You either make less money or you charge a little higher in prices. That's just kind of one example. Now, here's a few questions that you can ask yourself to identify these external threats. What changes in the industry are cause for concern? What new market trends are on the horizon? Where and why are our competitors outperforming us? You know, those are the main threats that you need to look at. You may have you may be an old mom and pop restaurant, uh, and you don't do delivery, you don't do uh, 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 Uber Eats or whatever, and that can hurt you because because it's a threat, and the other new businesses are doing those things. So we look at all of those things, and we have to look at them as a threat and how they will affect our organization. Now, any other questions? Any new questions on opportunities and threats?
One question that came up so far, is it true data that ad dollars are going towards social media marketing more than broadcast TV or radio?
I don't have those numbers, so I could not answer that question. I can't really answer that question, but I do know that it's probably running neck and neck. It's probably running neck and neck.
I would add to that response, Ron, that I think every marketing plan is very different based on each individual type of business and where the patrons or where the public that you're trying to reach at is situated. And that has a lot to do with where those dollars could be invested in.
Very true. Very true. That's
Uh,
very true.
Follow-up question is, what's an example of market gaps?
A market gap. Um, we can say a market gap would be uh, in your particular area. Uh, are there? Let's take our area here in Los Angeles, Southeast Los Angeles. Say you like to eat healthy food, and the grocery stores don't really sell them, or you don't have that many grocery stores in your area. That's a market gap. Uh, South LA is what's known as a food desert, where you cannot get quality food, vegetables, fruits, and what have you, like you can in other areas of Los Angeles. So that could be considered a market gap. Um, and you might be able to fill that gap. You may have a business that specializes in food for vegans or vegetarians or people that don't eat red meat. Um, we have a in South LA we have a overabundance of fast food places, and we know that's not necessarily the best for us, but they're here they're here they're here in abundance, overabundance actually. So that would be an example of market gap. What a particular area has or doesn't have.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next slide.
Okay, when are we looking at using um, a SWOT analysis? That's a very good question, not a question, but a very good thought. A SWOT analysis can offer helpful perspectives at any stage of an effort. You can start, if it's a startup, you can start with a startup. Explore the possibilities for new efforts or solutions for problems. You can use it as for startup, you can use it as an existing business, and you can use it as a mature business. You can make decisions about the best path for your initiative, identifying your opportunities for success in context of threats to success can clarify direction that your business can go and the directions and the choices that you make. You can also determine where change is possible. If you're at a juncture or a turning point, an inventory of your strengths and weaknesses can reveal priorities as well as possibilities. You can also adjust and refine plans mid-course. In other words, you may have a plan and you're thinking of, giving it a 12-month cycle to see if it works. But you can do a SWOT analysis in the middle of it and say, okay, this is not going to work. There's probably a better way to go. You can also adjust and refine plans mid-course. A new opportunity might open up wider avenues, while a new threat could close a path that once existed. In other words, you could actually be on one road and see that that road's not going to work because you've done an analysis, say, this is what's happening. And again, things pop up. No one, 4 years ago, no one expected to be in the house for 3 months straight when we had the pandemic. So it opened up opportunities. It opened up opportunities for restaurants where now they had major delivery services and everybody was delivering. I mean, you had to wear a mask, but you were delivering food versus going out to eat. Some restaurants didn't adjust quick enough or couldn't adjust and they went out of business. But some did remarkably well during that. They just adjusted quickly. It also offers a simple way of communicating about your initiative and program, an excellent way to organize information that you've gathered from your studies and your surveys. That's why I say a SWOT is done from within and without, from the outside as well, because what you think is going to be somewhat biased because it's your business, but you need to see what other people think. We find that out through surveys. And if you'll notice now, a lot of times when you go to these smaller restaurants, they have a survey. How did we do? When you pay your bill, you take a little survey. How did we do? Was it good? Was it bad? They use that to kind of figure out where the company is going. What's happening? Do you like what we're doing? Is there some things that we can do better? That sort of thing. So when you can use a SWOT at any point in the business. Now, the elements of a SWOT. It focuses on, next slide. It focuses on strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Remember that the purpose of performing the SWOT is to reveal positive forces that can work together and potential problems that need to be recognized and immediately addressed. We will discuss the process of creating analysis, but first, we'll do a few sample layouts for your SWOT analysis. Now, the most common form of a SWOT analysis is the column form. You just, as the next slide will show you, you'll just make a column. You just make a column: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And you'll list them. You list your strengths, you'll list your weaknesses, you'll list your opportunities that may come up, and you'll list your threats. So how does that work? How do we do that? And again, that's very easy, just very column. And there's another column one, but it's actually more of a different one. It's a looser structure. If you're maybe a larger organization, you can brainstorm, you can group positives and negatives to talk broadly about how your organization and an external environment works. You put strengths, your assets, resources, opportunities and prospects, negatives, weaknesses, limitations, restrictions, threats, challenges. All those things work to get your business a little bit stronger. And then there's a third option, which is probably for larger organizations, more sophisticated organization like Google, where they actually look at look at strengths and weaknesses, which could be appropriate, which 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 would be appropriate. Google has one of the most profitable business models in the world. A typical SWOT analysis there places the company's dominant search market share as one of its core strengths. The company is also known for its technological innovations that have been revolutionized both the workplace and the entertainment sectors. So you can use these very well, very well. They have different. It's a different setup. But again, this is for a much larger organization. Maybe hospitals and larger companies would work under something like this. Um, and again, an example would be Apple. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak provided an example of how financial goals can be emphasized in the SWOT grid to develop strategies for the Apple Corporation. The opportunities, leveraging its strong brand image to enter other markets. Apple was first a computer. Then they got so big that everybody was waiting for the phone. Once the phone came out, and that came out about 2004, 2005, when the first Apple came out, the first iPhone came out. They were known for computers, and they went into the phone business, and it was a hit right away because they leveraged their name, they leveraged their brand. Then one of the threats is you got to leverage against counterfeit products. You got to look at increasing competition in various industries. Everybody else started coming up with smartphones and what have you. And their strength was strong brand recognition and loyal customers, innovative products and services. Of course, they had the leading technology edge, financial strength, and profitability. So their opportunities were to use now artificial intelligence, increased focus on content streaming services. I mean, everything now moves at a much faster pace than it used to. Uh, we look at Apple. Again, Apple has mastered moving quickly. A reduction in demand of their phones due to economic downturns because their phones are not cheap. They were never cheap. I mean, I think even back then they were about $500 when everybody was giving phones away. So it was something different, and they're still the most popular phone. Weaknesses: they have expensive products and services, lack of new innovative products in recent years, a high degree of litigation, complacency in the face of growing competition, and their opportunities now are limited customization, dependence on the iPhone, closed ecosystem, very closed. I think they're starting to open it up a little bit now. And what else do? They've closed unprofitable European operations. So it helps them kind of go through the market so that they continue to be a very strong brand. Now, at this point, we look at listing our internal factors, strengths, and weaknesses. Now, how do we generally do that? If you're having difficulty naming them, then start by simply listing the characteristics. We're a small business. We're connected to the neighborhood. Some of those would probably be strengths. Although the strengths and weaknesses of your organization are your internal qualities, don't overlook the perspective of people outside of your group. Always look at the outside. Identify strengths and weaknesses from both your point of view and that of others, including those you serve or deal with. Do others see problems or they see assets that you may not see? How do you get your information about how outsiders perceive your strengths and weaknesses? You may know already if you've listened to those you serve. If not, this might be the time to gather that information. As I said earlier, surveys are a very good way, excellent way of getting that information. an excellent way of getting that information. So those are some things that those are the things that you can look at when you're putting together your SWOT analysis. Now, who develops SWOT? Who develops these SWOT analysis? The most common users, as you'll see in the next slide, the most common users are team members and project managers. Project managers for sure, because they're managing something definitely in a project, and they have to kind of look at all of that going. What's the involvement in the creation state? The involvement, no one should overlook anyone in the creation stage. An individual or small group can develop a SWOT analysis, but it'll be a lot more effective if you take advantage of the many stakeholders. Each person or group offers a different perspective on the strengths and weaknesses of your program and has a different experience of both. So you can use all of that to develop a plan or redevelop the plan for your business. Likewise, one staff member or volunteer may have information about an opportunity or threat that is essential to understanding your position, your company's position, and determining the future of the company. So it's always good to get everyone's input, because one person may know something that nobody else knows. Any questions at this point?
One question, tying it back to the SWOT analysis. Do you use SWOT in conjunction with a lean canvas?
I think you can use SWOT yes, that would be very good. Yes, you can use that. You can use that. You can use the SWOT analysis. You can use the SWOT analysis in conjunction with just about anything that's going with your business, because it covers the entire spectrum, and it's meant to cover the entire spectrum. So yes. So how do we, we just talked about who develops a SWOT. How do we actually conduct a SWOT analysis? Well, number one, and this is kind of different people do it different ways. I've been in several companies and we've done it several different ways, but generally they're done at retreats, where the outside noise is not around. So everybody's together on one accord and kind of getting it together. You designate a leader or a group facilitator who has good listening and group process skills, and who can keep things moving and on track. You don't want to get stuck on any one thing. You want to just get the list first on the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats before you analyze. But you want to get a full list at that time. You designate someone to record and back up the leader if you have a large group. And you can use a large whiteboard and just write everything down and record the analysis and discussion points. You can record later in a more polished fashion to share with stakeholders and to update. Introduce the SWOT method and its purpose to your organization. This can be simple to be asking them, where are we and where can we go? Two simple questions. You can run through a quick example based on a shared experience or a well-known public issue. Depending on the nature of your group and the time available, let all the participants of this analysis introduce themselves and their role. Then you can divide your stakeholders into smaller groups. And if your retreat or meeting draws several groups of stakeholders together, make sure you mix them up to get a wide range of perspective and give them a chance to introduce themselves. Have each group designate a recorder, and then provide each with a large dry erase whiteboard. Then you direct them to communicate to create a SWOT analysis in the form that you choose: chart, columns, matrix, or even a page for each quality. Reconvene the group at the agreed upon time to share results. gather information from the groups, recording on the recording on the whiteboard, collect and organize all the different groups, ideas, and perceptions. Then you have the discussion. You discuss and record the results. Depending on your time frame and the purpose, this could be an all-day retreat or it could be a whole weekend retreat. I've been on several of those. If appropriate, give a written summary of the SWOT analysis to share with participants for continued use in planning and implementation. And actually, I could actually say that you can share that with them, and something else might even come up as you share the written what you've written down, the actual summary, because something else may even come up. Now, in our next slide, we look at identifying the issues and the problems that you plan to change. Better understanding the factors that affect your initiative put you in a better position for action. This understanding helps you to identify the issues or problems that you intend to change. It also helps you to set or reaffirm goals, or reset goals. And the most important part, it helps you to create an action plan, because that's the most important part, is creating the action plan and then following through. As you consider your analysis, be open to the possibilities that exist within a weakness or a threat. Likewise, recognize that an opportunity can become a threat if everybody else sees it at the same time and plans to take advantage of it, thereby increasing your competition. So you have to plan for all things. Plan for all things, uh, being equal. Now, in summary, a realistic recognition of the weaknesses and threats that exist for your effort is the first step to countering them with a robust set of strategies that build upon strengths and opportunities. A SWOT analysis identifies your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to assist you in making strategic plans and decisions. Now, one of the main things in going with this, one of the first things you have to kind of figure out is, what is your value to customers? What do you want to really convey? So we talk about that, and that's what we call our unique value proposition. Did you have a slide for that? I don't know.
We do. Before we go on to the next slide,
Oh, yes, questions. I'm sorry.
let me get two questions that have more or less the same in mind. How do you do a SWOT analysis for a lone entrepreneur, and what if you are an individual? SWOT analysis.
Oh, that's the same question. Well, it would be, well, yeah, that's a good one. You can determine it for that particular individual. If the individual is yourself, you can actually determine that. You can actually look at it from the inside, and you determine what your strengths and weaknesses are, what opportunities and threats that you see for your business, if it's just one person. And then go to the outside, go to one of your customers and ask them, what do they see as your strengths and weaknesses, or that person's strengths and weaknesses, and what do they see as opportunities and threats? So if that's probably the best way you can do it as a lone person, because you have nothing else, but you have to ask somebody on the outside, because they're going to see things that you can't see yourself.
Thank you, Ron. And then we have a new question. As a business in the very early startup phase, would you recommend creating the SWOT analysis once this LApreneur is complete and you're ready for the next phase?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's absolutely, because that will tell you kind of how you're going to move. Because your startup, in fact, I've dealt with some startups, and they do pre-planning, they do all that, but you have to look at, what's the competition? What if folks figure out how I do so well? What if people, find my secret, then I have to do something else to up my value, because it's always going to be about your value to the customer. So most definitely, there's always do a SWOT analysis, even if it's just on yourself. Now, providing, as I said earlier, we will talk a little bit about the unique value proposition. Now, what exactly is a unique value proposition? Generally, it's a statement that describes the unique benefit that a company, product, or service offers to its customers or clients. It explains how a company or its offerings can solve a customer's problems or meet their needs in a way that set it apart from the competitors. A strong UVP is essential for any business to differentiate itself, stand out in a crowded market. What exactly does that mean? What is your benefit to a customer? What do you, like I say, what do you bring to the table that nobody else brings to the table? That's what you kind of have to figure out. And you have to differentiate yourself from any other business. Restaurants do it all the time, be it ambiance, be it the taste of their food, be it their location. Some you may have a restaurant that has moderately tasting food. Food is moderate. But they're sitting on top of a hill with a beautiful view. So you have ambiance. You may have a restaurant that has great food, but it's in a truck stop. What is your unique value proposition? How do you make this thing work? So those are the things that you really have to look at. And what's the importance of that unique value proposition? As the next slide will tell you, uh, the importance of the next slide will tell you. Oops. It's really helps to clarify the purpose and value of a company or offering, and it enables the customers to quickly understand what sets it apart from the competitors. A clear and compelling UVP can also help to increase sales, build customer loyalty, and drive business growth. So once you've determined what your UVP is, let it be known. Make that a major part of your marketing effort, so that people know why you're different. Why is McDonald's different than uh, any Burger King? You look at the marketing. There's always something different. They're always coming up with something new, a new hamburger, a new. Also in cars, sports cars, SUVs. Everybody has something different. They want, now you can open up the door without even using your hands. So if your hands are full, you kick the tire and the door opens. Uh, Always kind of figure out unique what that unique value proposition is, and it can help you increase your sales, build customer loyalty, and drive business growth. Now, the key benefits to a unique value proposition, of course, increase customer engagement. A well-crafted UVP can increase the customer's attention, can capture a customer's attention, and encourage them to engage with a company or product. Improved brand recognition. A UVP that clearly differentiates a company or offering from its competitors can help to build a strong brand identity. Enhance customer loyalty. By providing a unique benefit to customers, a UVP can help build a loyal and encourage repeat business. And of course, increase sales. A clear and compelling UVP can help to persuade potential customers to make a purchase, leading to increased sales and revenue. So it's very important to get that unique value proposition right and market it. Now, how can a business improve its unique value proposition? You've kind of figured out what it is. How do we improve that? The next slide will tell you that you want to, first thing you want to do is identify your customer, identify, the next slide, please. You want to identify your target audience. It should speak directly to the needs and pain points of your target audience. Understanding that ideal customer is key to developing an effective UVP. Focus on benefits, not features. Because a lot of people don't even use half the features. I have a phone that does a lot of stuff, but I don't use a third of the stuff that my phone does. But I focus on the benefits. Focus on the benefits. You should focus on the unique benefits that your product or service provides, rather than just simply listing its features. There's something that everybody wants. Kind of figure out what's more important and focus on that. Be clear and concise. A UVP should be easy to understand and communicate the unique value proposition in a few clear and concise sentences. Most importantly, use customer feedback. Soliciting feedback from customers can help to identify the most compelling benefits and language to use in a unique value proposition. And of course, test and iterate. A UVP is not a one and done process because it can be changed. It should be tested and refined over time to ensure it continues to resonate with its customers. Now, UVP, how do we do it? In summary, as our next slide will tell you, in summary, a UVP's broader statement is a broader statement that encompasses the overall value that a company or offering provides beyond a single feature or benefit. It's also important for businesses to differentiate themselves and communicate their unique value to the customers while explaining how a company or its offering can solve that customer's problem or meet the needs in a way that sets it apart from competitors. And generally that's what most businesses do, is they really want to solve a problem. If you can solve a problem, you can be successful. You may even have to let them know that it's a problem. But if you can solve the problem, that takes your business to the next level.